Live from Bloomberg's world headquarters in New York, I'm Tim Stenovec.
And I'm Katie Greifeld. Welcome to Bloomberg Crypto, a look at the people, transactions, and technology shaping the world of decentralized finance. And we begin with the crypto industry continuing its push to go public as various companies look to ride the wave of optimism in the sector.
PNC, just another example of a traditional finance company getting into digital assets as it teams up with Coinbase. We're going to speak to an executive from the largest U.S. regional bank.
And we'll dig into the millions of dollars spent this year by the crypto industry to ensure the passage of landmark legislation.
That's all ahead on Bloomberg Crypto. First up, though, a check of the market, a little snapshot here. Seen a little bit of red, but kind of makes sense. These things can't go up every single day. Bitcoin down about half a percentage point, $117,000 per Bitcoin. It's maintained this pretty tight range over the last week. It stayed between $115,000 and $120,000 over that time. Remember, that high of $123,000 was just earlier this month. Ether also just off of all-time highs, down 0.8%, 0.7% right now. That all-time high yesterday, $3,900 at $37.61 right now. XRP also just off that all-time high, down about 1.3%, that all-time high over $3.50. A lot of earnings happening this week. One of those is Coinbase. That one is out on Thursday. Look at this over the last 7 days, though. Coinbase down about 12% over that period of time. The drop, though, coming despite renewed interest in crypto, likely also an increase in trading revenue. We'll find out on Thursday. Check this out, Katie. Citigroup analysts are true believers. Just this morning, a new note out. They raised their price target on the stock from $270 to $505. Right now, it's at $370.
Yeah, looking forward to that earnings report. We'll see if it can get closer to that target. But let's take a look at the ETF system right now. And specifically, we're going to take a look at IBIT. That is, of course, the largest crypto ETF out there. We're comparing it to some of these other big ETFs that have been around for decades. IBIT, for context, only launched last January, and already it has a vibrant options ecosystem that's developed around this fund. You're taking a look at average daily notational volume over the past month. IBIT clocks in at about $4 billion. That is above that of TLT, HYG, some of the most popular fixed income funds out there. GLD rather clocks in about $9.9 billion. So still, IBIT has some wood to chop there, but really stunning when you consider how long this ETF has been around, which isn't very long at all, Tim.
Katie, this is the crypto show, not ETF IQ, but we're gonna let that one slide there. One of the biggest trends generating headlines right now: companies turning themselves into treasuries, where they buy and hold large amounts of assets like Bitcoin and Ether. One executive who's doing just that is Joe Lubin.
We're doing our best to accumulate capital every single day through ATM facilities as well as using other mechanisms. We're earning yield every day on our existing Ether, and nearly every day we're buying more Ether and staking it immediately.
And another firm that's looking into building a digital asset treasury is the family office of the Binance co-founders. We got word this week that CEA Industries and 10X Capital have announced a $500 million raise to buy Binance Coin. Now, this family office participated in the deal, and the move sent shares of CEA soaring. Let's get more details now from Bloomberg News reporter Emily Nicolle joining us from London. And Emily, my first reaction to this, honestly, was, do we need another crypto treasury company?
I mean, we have had a lot of them, haven't we? This is kind of one of the more unusual ones, though. I mean, most of the companies that we've seen so far doing crypto treasury strategies have opted to go for the big two, whether that's Bitcoin or Ether, as we just heard from Joe Lubin. This is tracking one of the smaller altcoins, although by no means that small. BNB is still, one of the top cryptocurrencies out there by size. It's the token that is linked to the crypto exchange Binance, and so it kind of is tied into all of that, and that's why we might be seeing Binance co-founder Changpeng Zhao, his family office is involved in this effort.
What do we know about CEA Industries, ticker VAPE? It's down about 29% right now. I went to its website earlier. They do vertical farming, greenhouses, commercial cultivation facilities. They also seem to have a company that sells vaping equipment to Canadians. I'm a little confused here.
I mean, yeah, personally, I also know very little about CEA Industries. It was a surprise to us too yesterday. This was announced as the company that was going to take this Treasury strategy forward. Previously, we knew that a BNB Treasury strategy was coming from YZ Labs, the family office of Zhao, but we didn't know which public company that would be attached to. Now we do. However, it's not that uncommon that a company does something entirely different to crypto when they're building these strategies. If we think about MicroStrategy, as it's now known, the biggest of those didn't do anything related to crypto before it started buying Bitcoin all those years ago, and now look where we're at. So I guess I can't be too surprised.
That's a very good point. Bloomberg reporter Emily Nicolle from London. Katie, by the way, the vape company, it's called Fat Panda, is the one. By CEA Industries. Let's talk more about the strategy of firms becoming crypto treasuries and the continuation of efforts of companies going public. We're joined by Meltem Demirors. She serves as general partner at Crucible Capital. She's also the former chief strategy officer over at CoinShares. Meltem, what do you make of this strategy here? I guess it kind of makes sense when you think about companies like Strategy that are doing this with Bitcoin, Joe Lubin doing this, of course, as well with Ether and other companies as well. What about a company doing this with a so-called altcoin or its own cryptocurrency?
Okay, so let's just run the numbers. You know, I'm a numbers girl, Tim. I love my data. So we have to date 98 companies that have raised or plan to raise $86 billion in these DATs, as we call them, DAT, digital asset treasuries. Most of these companies, very few employees, very little revenue. And I just think, again, it's very attractive. The sponsors are gathering anywhere from 10 to 20% in sponsor fees, and they're selling $1 of net asset value to the market for $2, $3. I think the challenge is going to be there is now an immense amount of saturation. Every company under the sun is looking at ways to add crypto to its treasury. There's press release about it every day. I think it's positive that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are being seen as assets worthy of holding on a balance sheet. We've always believed that. I've always believed that. I hold it in my portfolio.
Yeah.
But I think this idea, right, of speculative fervor and these assets trading, these stocks trading at really high multiples to the underlying NAV is a potential risk. And frankly, the people who are going to lose, it's a game of musical chairs, is the people who are buying these things at these really high premiums.
Okay, a game of musical chairs. Meltem, I want to push a little bit on the ultimate goal of these companies. To me, it seems like they're being treated as, the way these companies are thinking about these assets is sort of like De Beers when it comes to diamonds, to be able to control the amount that's actually out there. Because if you buy up all of a certain asset, you certainly have price control. Is that the ultimate goal here? Because this stuff is not being bought and sold necessarily. It's just being bought and held.
I think really the issue here is the way that these assets are being bought. There's a lot of capital raising. If you look at the investors participating in this, it's primarily people who've already created wealth in crypto or who own locked tokens that they want to monetize, right, by contributing them to these vehicles and being able to capture 2-3x value through this premium these assets trade at. I think the bigger risk here, though, to investors who are potentially engaging in this market is the debt overhang. Some of these companies are issuing or raising via debt. And right now we're in this very ebullient, very exciting crypto market. There's a lot of price volatility, a lot of enthusiasm around forward price trajectory going into the second half of the year. I think the real challenge will be what happens in an environment where prices decline and some of these debt obligations could potentially exceed the underlying value of the assets held within these treasury companies. So just a lot of unique, I think, incentives here at play. Just like anything else in crypto, we love to beat a horse to death, so I expect we'll see another 100 in the next month.
Katie, did you hear what she said?
I need a moment to recover from that phrasing, Meltem, but Tim informed me that this isn't an ETF show, which was news to me. I want to ask about ETFs and their place that they hold in the marketplace relative to these digital asset treasury companies, because when you think about before IBIT and all the spot crypto ETFs launched, there was this commentary out there that what becomes the use case for Strategy? Why wouldn't you just buy one of these ETFs for crypto exposure? Obviously, that line of questioning proved to hold no water because now you're seeing this flurry of crypto treasury companies. And I wonder how you think about them in relation to ETFs that just directly hold cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, and look, I used to be at DCG in the early days of Grayscale, right? When Grayscale first listed, GBTC and later ETH, which was the Ethereum vehicle, would trade at massive premiums to the underlying net asset value because there wasn't really a simple way to own Bitcoin or Ether in your 401k, in your brokerage account. I do think the nice thing about IBIT is you know exactly what you're getting. It's right there on the package. It's a really low fee product that allows you to hold Bitcoin where you hold your other assets. It's really simple. The one thing that I think is interesting about these treasury companies and some of the narrative we're seeing is this narrative around earning yield. In the Joe Lubin clip you played at the top of the show, right? Joe talks about earning Ether yield through staking. A lot of Solana dApps are looking at capturing Solana yield. And I think, again, there's a new sort of territory that's being explored. The ETFs would love to be able to stake assets and offer yields. So it'll be interesting to see if and when ETFs start offering staked products with low to no fees, something which we pioneered at CoinShares several years ago, what the impact will be on these DATs and their ability to earn extra yield above that existing staking yield.
Meltem, always good to see you. Meltem Demirors, general partner over at Crucible Capital. Thanks so much for joining us on Bloomberg Crypto. Coming up, we are looking at how traditional finance players are developing their own crypto strategies.
And later, we dive into the money behind the industry's push to get the stablecoin legislation over that finish line.
And to access all of the latest data and news and prices on crypto, check out CRYP Go on the terminal. This is Bloomberg.
We're 175 years old, and we've been innovating across that 175 years. And stablecoins is just yet one more opportunity to innovate. We see stablecoin really as an opportunity, not as a threat.
Well, look at that. That's Western Union CEO speaking just last week about his company's interest in stablecoin. Another name making a move in crypto is PayPal. Katie, it's going to soon allow businesses to accept more than 100 cryptocurrencies at checkout. The option is going live in the coming weeks. It'll allow merchants to accept crypto such as Bitcoin, Ether, Tether's USDT, and Circle's USDC from wallets, including Coinbase and OKX. How many different acronyms?
That was a lot of letters.
That's an alphabet soup of crypto just now.
Yeah, you said them all really well.
Thank you.
This is an interesting story. You know, looking at their reasoning here, Bloomberg News had a great interview with Frank Keller. He is the general manager of large enterprise and merchant platform over at PayPal. He said that this is really for small businesses. You think about small businesses trying to accept payments from buyers abroad. You have high fees. You have several days of transactions, settlement time. But with Pay with Crypto, the idea is that it'll settle instantly and cost much less.
Yeah, people actually using crypto to buy things, not just hold it.
A use case.
A use case, maybe. Well, it isn't just PayPal and Western Union making a move with crypto. PNC is also getting into the game by teaming up with Coinbase. PNC is set to offer its banking customers access to digital currency services. Joining us from the company is Emma Loftus. It's head of Treasury Management. Emma, good to see you. Thanks for joining us on Bloomberg Crypto. What is the goal here, and what were you hearing from clients of PNC Wealth Management about what exactly they want to do with crypto? Do they want to trade it, or do they just want to hold it?
All of the above. At PNC, we're really just trying to stay ahead of our clients' expectations, and digital assets are becoming a really important part of that conversation. And this partnership allows us to explore ways for our clients to participate, buy, hold, and sell.
So is the idea that you want them to use PNC and not go to a different platform? Was it that wealth managers were coming to you and saying, hey, we're hearing a lot from clients and they want crypto as part of their asset allocation, and we want them to stay in PNC's platform?
Exactly. So what we want to do is be able to support clients participating through a PNC experience. If they're comfortable, they love our services, they want to do more business with PNC, providing them with a gateway to a digital asset platform is, exactly where we want to be able to serve them effectively.
And Emma, I know that you did an interview with our colleagues over at Bloomberg News, and you made the point that you're interested in use cases for commercial and corporate clients for payments and treasury management functions that isn't yet developed for digital assets. Tim and I were joking about use cases, but talk to us about the timeline there and some of those use cases.
Right. I think, the use case now that's really discussed is a lot around international payments. But that market needs to mature for middle market and large corporate clients because the existing payment rails that exist for commerce today are really based on the type of payment settlement instructions that exist today. As crypto becomes more ubiquitous and a part of a treasury management application for a corporate client, we'll support that, but that's a ways off. That market needs to mature.
Still needs to mature. And, I know that you've been looking at this space and blockchain in general for about a decade now, Emma. You think about how far we've come over the past 10 years. Where are we when it comes to the regulatory management, the regulatory side of things, and what still is needed for that continued evolution?
I think being able to support clients effectively to make sure that their payments are assured, arrive when they expect to arrive, and are protected, that's key. And as we evolve through the regulatory framework, the banks that assure that our clients are protected that way are going to be key. And we see significant steps in that direction.
How do you choose which cryptocurrencies to give clients access to?
Our real desired outcome here is to support clients' wallets in, whatever market they would like to trade in. We really take our clients' steer in that regard.
So does that mean, what does that mean in terms of what they're allowed to actually access on the platform? Is it anything from what some people might refer to as meme coins all the way to, the largest digital asset, Bitcoin?
Well, listen, it's early doors yet, but partnering with a company like Coinbase to provide access as client demand matures is really where we're thinking about building out our capabilities.
So is anything that's available on Coinbase safe to say available for PNC's clients?
I wouldn't say just yet, because we have to figure out what's actually the client demand. And then to start to build this, there's going to be a list of priorities.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Emma, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Emma Loftus, Head of Treasury Management over at PNC. Well, coming up, Coinbase, one of the biggest lobbying spenders in the U.S., it helped to get the recent stablecoin legislation signed into law. We're going to dig into crypto's lobbying efforts next. This is Bloomberg.
We plan to comply with the Genius Act as a foreign issuer, and with the domestic stablecoin will be immediately under the requirements of the Genius Act as well. We work globally with more than 250 law enforcement agencies across more than 50 countries. So we are very glad that the Genius Act is in fact taking some of the processes that we are already doing and putting it into a law.
That was the CEO of Tether speaking to us last week after the signing of the Genius Act, the landmark U.S. stablecoin law. And it should come as no surprise that crypto companies and advocates boosted their lobbying this year to ensure passage of that legislation. Joining us now with those numbers is Bloomberg's Bill Allison. And Bill, $6.9 million spent in the second quarter. That is a boost relative to quarters past, but how does that figure compare to other industries, for example?
What's really surprising is relatively a small amount of money by Washington standards. If you look at something like the pharmaceutical industry, they, collectively those companies spend around $55 million every quarter. So crypto is really small, but what's different about crypto is a lot of industries, including like defense, pharmaceutical, they will lobby on 15 different issue areas. They'll be lobbying on taxes. They'll be lobbying on, how are we regulating healthcare benefits and insurance, and there's all kinds of different things that they spend money on. Crypto is laser focused on these bills and maybe a little bit about Securities and Exchange Commission budget and oversight. But for the most part, they are lobbying on these bills. And if you go through the disclosures, and so that $6.9 million may go a lot further than the $55 million that pharmaceutical companies are spending all over Washington.
I was just going to say, Bill, that they are getting a lot of bang for their buck, it seems like, when it comes to that $6.9 million that they're spending. But we should note this is different than spending during an election cycle when it comes to supporting candidates who they believe will further their goals, right?
Yes, it is. Although, right before about the middle of July, Fairshake, which is the super PAC of the crypto industry, announced that since the election, it had raised more than $109 million. And again, one of the things that's unique about crypto, like you don't have a defense industry super PAC. They have their own super PAC that's funded by Coinbase and Ripple Labs and a bunch of the other big players, Andreessen Horowitz. And they spend solely in races based on a candidate's position on crypto. And they wield an awful lot of power that way, that they can, flip a race one way or the other. You drop 3 or 4 million in a congressional House district, you can really have an impact. So while that's far off in the future, I think a lot of lawmakers are thinking about that when they're considering how they're going to vote on a crypto bill.
Right. So I guess it's a natural next question. Has this become a bipartisan issue, even though it was seen in the last election cycle as something that Republicans favored more, especially at the executive level with the way the president talked about it in his most recent campaign, because of the power that they wield?
I think that it is, and if you think about, if you're a member of Congress or if you're a political party, you have to think about where is the money, and here is this industry which is now all of a sudden pouring all of this money into electoral politics, and the lobbying is probably going to be catching up in another couple of years or so. And you've got to think that, this is going to be something that you have to figure out how you're going to make, peace with it. How are you going to appeal to this industry? And I think that Democrats are coming around to that they're going to have to do this. Although, yes, definitely in 2024, Donald Trump made this, he was the crypto candidate when he was running for president. He has his own meme coin. He has his own, connection to a stable coin. So Trump has really embraced this. But I don't think that this is going to be strictly a Republican industry in the same way that, say, the oil industry is.
Thanks so much to a Bloomberg campaign finance reporter, Bill Allison. Bill, always good to see you. That is going to do it for Bloomberg Crypto. Our focus on digital assets, though, does not end here. Scarlett Fu and I are going to be speaking with Jack Mallers from 21 Capital. Thanks to Katie, too, for stepping in. This is Bloomberg.